Have you ever had a day that felt like it would never end, but then you blinked and a whole year had gone by? Do you ever catch yourself thinking, where did all the time go? Have you ever felt like life was standing still only to realize you were changing quietly the whole time? Do you know that strange panic when you suddenly become aware of just how much time has passed? There's a strange rhythm of life that no one really prepares you for. Some days drag, some years blur. You'll sit there thinking nothing is happening, that you're stuck, that maybe you're falling behind. And then one day you wake up and 10 years have gone by. It's overwhelming, right? Like, how is that even possible? And then we all eventually have that sudden awareness that you can't hold on to time, no matter how tightly or how hard you try. But what if slow days weren't wasted days? What if they were the ones carrying the most weight, quietly shaping who you're becoming? What if the moments you thought didn't matter were actually the ones that built everything you are in life? Welcome back to Chasing Stability, where the in-between is where we all are, even if we choose not to admit it. I'm Mackenzie, and this episode is about that tension of a lifetime. The slow crawl of the days, the rush of the years, and how perspective changes everything. Because life isn't about waiting for the fast years to make sense, even though sometimes it's hard not to look back and wonder. It's about learning how to be in the slow days without feeling like you're missing it all. When you're a kid, all you want to do is grow up. You're in such a hurry. The phrase, "I can't wait until I turn 18" just came flooding into everyone's memory, being screamed at your parents as you're running up the stairs. But it's true, right? When you're young, you see life as moving so slow. You want to be old enough to drive, old enough to go out on your own, old enough to fall in love, old enough to move out. Every birthday feels like a finish line you can't wait to cross. 13, 16, 18, 21. You don't realize that you're actually sprinting through the easiest parts of your life. And if you think back, I guarantee you'll remember how every adult in your life told you at one point or another the same thing. Don't rush it. These are the best years of your life. One day, you'll wish you could go back, but you can't hear it then, can you? You're too focused on what's next, too convinced that freedom lives in the years ahead, not in the ones you're already in. Then something happens. Maybe it's your 20s flying by faster than you expected, or maybe it's hitting 30 and realizing you're closer to 40 than high school. And suddenly you understand exactly what they meant. You feel that ache, that pull of time, and you realize they weren't just saying it, they were warning you. And here's the life plot twist. You realize that the adults who told you to slow down were kids once too. They ignored their own warnings, lived through the same rush, and then spent the rest of their lives wishing they had listened. It's almost like a cycle. Every generation trying to teach the next generation what can't really be understood until you've already lost it. How many times have you had a conversation with your partner or your best friend that starts with something like, "If I could go back, I would have," or "I wish you would have made me stick with that thing I didn't want to do then," or "Could you imagine if we knew what we knew now?" It's always the same. Hindsight is 2020. Maybe you would have taken school more seriously, or not dated that guy, or stuck out a talent that came so naturally to you instead of wanting to quit because of social entertainment. But life lessons come in those moments that we think are so small. I know when I gave up dancing and basketball, it felt so small then, like it wasn't that big of a deal. But that's the thing, isn't it? The things that feel so small then, the sports we quit, the passions we drop, the risks we don't take, they end up shaping us in ways we only recognize years down the line. At the time, it's just another Tuesday decision. It's just a conversation with your parents that you brush off. It's just another practice you skipped, but all of those just add up. And one day you look back and realize they became the building blocks of life you're living now. And that's where the sting of hindsight comes in. Because when you finally see it, it's overwhelming. You feel this sudden rush of awareness like, oh my God, so much time has passed, and it wasn't in the big milestones. It was in the tiny choices. That's when you understand why people say life is happening while you're busy waiting for it to start. It doesn't arrive all at once. It collects, it stacks, it sneaks up. It's not about regretting every decision, but it's about realizing that the small stuff was never actually small. The slow days you thought didn't matter were the ones quietly writing your story. It's true with all the things in life. The story is created in the moments you aren't even focusing on as they go by. Like with friendships, how many people did you used to be friends with that you can't even remember their real last name anymore now that they've gotten married and all you see is their life through social media? I know I let go of people too easily back when I was young for whatever reason. Thought I was too cool, thought the friendship would stick around even without the work, thought newer and better would come. We grew apart. Whatever the reason was, we've all used one of them before. They're all stupid, childish reasons, but what I didn't realize then was lifelong friendships don't just happen. They're built, and they don't stay around without love, and they don't always come back after you realize what you lost. Looking back, I'd hold on tighter to those people who truly saw me, grew up with me, and chose to love me as the weird, loud, bossy girl for all those early years. It's also in the first relationships, the ones we swore were the biggest heartbreaks of our lives. They were everything. And in the moment, we're focused on just making it work, naively believing we will be the lucky ones that will make the high school relationship last forever. Many girls live that dream. Few ever actually get it. But it wasn't just about that, like we thought it was. It was about how those moments shaped how we saw love, how we understood trust, and how we valued ourselves for years to come. Some of us got lucky. We got the Dean type of love, but others of us got Jess. But that's a whole episode in itself. We'll save that discussion for a different episode. But anyways, when we're kids, everything feels permanent. But that's the illusion on forever. Childhood tricks you into believing nothing will change, when in reality, everything is temporary. Those friends you swore you'd have for life, some of them turn into complete strangers the minute you left high school. That crush you used to dream about being with, you probably don't even remember why. And those little routines you once rolled your eyes at, they've disappeared quietly, and now you'd give anything to go back and feel how simple, light, stress-free it was to have something so predictable right around the corner. I remember a night vividly when I was a senior in high school, sitting around a campfire at one of our old party spots that the generations before us had named as the Falls. I'm sure if you're around 30 or older, you had one of those in your town, a place in the woods where that was where everyone went to meet up and party. So at this party, all of us were sort of just coming to the realization that this was all going to be different soon. College was right around the corner, and we were all leaving this chapter, but we all still thought we'd be friends. Like the parties with each other would continue, and our bond was bigger than all the other stereotypes that you had heard about how everyone would leave and move on. It wouldn't be us. That illusion was still there even when we were looking at what was about to happen in the face. That's the paradox of time. It feels endless when you're young, and then you grow up, and every year it feels more scarce. But either way you spin it, time never slows down. It's all about the human perspective. I think for a lot of us, college or those years right after high school is the first time we really feel time slip. You leave behind the structure of childhood, where every day is predictable and marked by routine, and suddenly life is moving in semesters and internships and summers that vanish faster than you can even register them. At first, it feels like freedom. You're meeting new people, staying up too late, making questionable choices you laugh about the next day. But then you blink and it's already junior year. And then you blink again and you're walking across the stage at graduation asking yourself, wait, what the fuck just happened? Where did college go? That's the first time you realize life doesn't pause just because you're trying to figure it out. It doesn't slow down because you need a second to breathe. It's jarring because those years felt slow in the moment. The all-nighters, the stress about money, the roommate drama, the parties, the uncertainty of who you are or what you're going to be doing. It all felt endless then. But when you look back, it folds into just a handful of moments, a small little highlight reel. That's when you start to understand what older people meant when they said, don't rush it. Because even when those days felt heavy or chaotic, they were the ones quietly slipping into the years that would define you. That was the first taste of how quickly life collects itself. I have this memory of my senior year of college where one of my favorite people from high school had just came in as a freshman. She ended up joining my sorority, and we had a very close friendship regardless before. So it was just picked right back up when she joined the sorority. And one night we were leaving this huge party. It was the kind where like multiple sororities and fraternities all packed into one place. You know the kind. Later that night, though, while we were walking home together, I remember she looked at me and she like kind of was like looking at me with these like twinkle eyes and like said to me, how do you know so many people? And I hope by the time I'm a senior that I'll be like that. And I laughed because one, she was basically my mini me, but even better socially. So I knew she would thrive. But two, I knew what she couldn't see yet. Once you make it through college, once you've lived the seasons and walked the paths enough times, the place doesn't feel so big anymore. The faces become familiar. The days that once felt endless, the weekends that felt like entire eras, they start to blend. That's the thing about time. It's so loud in the moment, but so quiet in hindsight. 1 minute, you're a freshman looking up to everyone who seems to have it all figured out. The next, you're a senior realizing it all passed in a blink of an eye, and you're nowhere closer to figuring it out. And that's where it really hits you, how fast years slip by, even when the days feel so slow. And then life shifts again. Because if college was a blank, stepping into the real world feels like someone hit fast forward. 1 minute you're celebrating graduation, still feeling like a kid with a cap on, and the next you're signing a lease, you're starting a job, you're watching the bills stack up on your new beautiful counter with your name on them. Time moves differently after that. In school, the years are natural markers, semesters, breaks, milestones that give you like little checkpoints. But in adulthood, aside from the seasons changing, it's just one long stretch of days that blur together until suddenly a year has gone by. You wake up one morning and realize, oh, wait, I've been out of school 5 years, 10 years, 15. I think that's why so many of us cling to like the holiday seasonal switch or like a sports rotation, and why companies use it for marketing. Honestly, it's like the only thing we have that relates to those natural markers to breaking up time. It allows us to mark our lives out just like how we used to do when we were young. Sometimes in my mind, I still use August as the beginning of the year because that's when school used to start. I turned 35 in a week. And my mind still uses that marker. I've been out of school for over a decade. But those words hit harder, don't they? Because this is life, where you're 35, but 25 felt like 3 days ago, and then other times it feels like 50 years ago. That's that time slip. It's overwhelming the first time you really feel it, or maybe every time you feel it a little bit. Because the slow days, the long commutes, endless emails, the daily workouts, the nights you spend scrolling on your phone, they make you think nothing's happening or changing. But then you look back and see how those quiet days have stacked into years. And that's when it hits you like a ton of bricks that this is life, not the someday you thought you were waiting for. It's happening right now in the ordinary moments, in the routines you barely pay attention to. And if you don't notice, it'll keep slipping until you look back and wonder where a whole decade went. And as those years go by, another thing we miss is our own growth in the moment. In fact, most of the time, it feels like we're stuck circling the same patterns, asking ourselves, am I even moving forward at all? But years later, when we look back, you realize, oh, wow, I'm really not that same person I was back then. Growth is subtle like that. It doesn't usually announce itself with a big bang of fireworks. It shows up in how you react differently to the same situation that once would have wrecked you. It's in the boundary you set without second guessing, the friendship you let go without the same guilt, the guy that you would have chased for months, but now you don't even look at. It's funny how sometimes it's not until someone from our past comes back into our life that you see just how much you've changed. You hear yourself saying things you would have never had the courage to say before, or you feel the calm in the situation that once triggered every insecurity in you. That's when you know the work worked, even if you didn't notice it happening day to day. And the wild part is those changes usually happen in the slowest of slow seasons, the ones you thought were wasted. You might have thought nothing was happening while you were just surviving, just getting by. But in the background, you were learning to become someone stronger, softer, wiser, and you didn't even notice. That's why I think perspective is everything. The slow days may feel pointless in the moment, but they're stacking into a version of you you'll be proud to meet later. Growth doesn't always roar, it whispers. And you don't recognize it until one day you're in a situation and you realize, oh, the old me could have never handled that like that. I used to be so insecure when it came to being around other girls that didn't know me and vice versa. And there was this specific girl in high school that triggered my insecurities so much more than anyone else. It lasted well into college and honestly, even until I was 25. I was so jealous of how everyone loved her and looked at her like she was just it. She was younger than I was, and I'm not proud to admit it, but I never gave her a chance. I was mean to her from the minute I felt insecure around her. That's awful to admit now, but it's the truth. Back then, I would have never admitted I didn't like her because I was jealous of her. It was just because I didn't like her. But I knew in my heart that was always the reason, right? After I got sick, I remember having this thought that, man, we probably could have been friends if I would have just been able to put my ego aside all those years ago. But the damage had already been done. Later on in life, we had a moment where the past was forgiven, and I no longer hold this will to compare myself to her and what she does like I did before. That pressure that I had on my back to be as pretty as her or to be as liked as her had faded as I grew up and got more confident in my own self and in my own understanding that everyone brings something to the table. There's no reason to compare. the perspective of me being jealous was lifted because there was so much more I should have been grateful for in the first place and not focusing on all the things that I didn't have and that someone else was receiving. When you look back, you realize that so much growth happened in the background, quietly, in ways that you didn't even notice until later. And that's where perspective becomes everything because the truth is, most of life is slow. It's the ordinary days. And those days can feel heavy, suffocating, even if you don't learn how to anchor yourself in perspective. Slow seasons have this way of convincing you that nothing is moving, that you're stuck, not ever going to get what you want. But perspective lets you zoom it out. It's what takes you from I'm wasting time to I'm being prepared. It's what shifts nothing is happening to I'm being protected. I'm being built. Sometimes that looks like an illness that pulls you out of the life that you thought you were building and forcing you to pause. In the moment, all you see is what you're losing. But with time, perspective shows you what that season was shaping in you. Patience, compassion, maybe even an entire new direction of your life. Other times, it's a breakup that leaves you sitting in silence on nights you used to fill with texts and plans. And you think, this stillness is killing me. But later you realize the quiet was where you found yourself again. It was where you started remembering your own voice after years of fighting to be heard. Maybe even in career stuff. Maybe you didn't get the job you wanted, or you're stuck in something that feels beneath your potential. At the time, it feels wasted. But later, perspective shows you that even the boring job taught you discipline, or that the rejection was God's way of rerouting you towards something that was a better fit for you in your life. When you can hold perspective, you can survive the waiting. You can survive the stillness because you stop measuring your life by what hasn't happened yet and start noticing what's actually being formed in you in the quiet. And that's not easy. No one's saying it is. And even though I know this outlook works, I still struggle with it, especially when it's during those harder days when it's quiet and all you hear is the negative. Perspective doesn't just drop into your lap. It's something you choose every day. But when you choose it, it becomes the anchor that keeps you steady when life feels like it's on pause. Perspective helps you survive the slow seasons, but trust in God's timing is what helps you stop resenting them altogether. We all want things fast. We want the relationship to click, the healing to happen overnight, the job to come through the week after the interview. Our timing says, now would be great, God. But his timing says, you're not ready yet. Or the thing you think you want isn't what you actually need. Or, wait, I have something better. It being frustrating is an understatement, right? Sometimes it feels like he's silent or like he forgot about you, but I've learned that God doesn't rush and he doesn't delay. He's always exact, not according to the clock you're watching or the pressure that you're feeling from the outside world, but according to the story he's writing. Think about how many times you've begged for something only to realize later that if you had gotten it then, it would have been horrible. Or you weren't equipped to hold it yet. That's God's mercy disguised as waiting. I've lost a lot in my life because I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't mature enough and I hadn't been faced with reality. Sometimes you should be thankful that you didn't have the opportunity to lose something you wanted because you got it too early. And I know waiting feels like punishment, but waiting is often preparation. He's building you for what you're asking for. strengthening the parts of you that will help you carry it. Looking back, the seasons where I felt the most forgotten were the very seasons where God was planting the deepest roots inside of me. The sickness that removed me from the wild life that I used to live, the friends I lost in the process, the relationships that ended, the closed doors I cried over. They were all timing. And when his timing finally comes, it doesn't feel forced. It flows like it was designed to be that way. I know you felt it before, like you had been fighting through quicksand to make something work in your life. And then you finally decide it's not going to work and change your direction to something else, whatever it may be. And it feels so easy and simple, like it has been designed just for you. Like everything that you're setting out to do now just clicks all of a sudden after you switched and changed directions. I think we get so tangled up in the what ifs. What if I had chosen that job instead of this one? What if I had dated him? What if I had moved when I had the chance? We treat our past like a math problem, as if one choice was the right answer and the other was the wrong one. But life isn't like that. Life is layered. Every choice becomes a thread in the story, and God knows how to weave it all together, no matter which direction you take. There aren't good and bad decisions in the way we obsessively try to label them. They're just decisions. And God has this wild way of working all of them for your good, even the ones you swear ruined everything. The truth is, you will never know what could have been. You can't go back to that exact moment, make the other choice, and peek at how it could have all unfolded. That reality doesn't exist. And sitting in regret is really just punishing yourself with a fantasy version of your life that isn't even real. That's why it's so freeing to accept that everything happens for a reason. Every wrong turn was still part of the right story. Even the heartbreak, even the setbacks, even the seasons that felt like waste. They were still shaping you, still teaching you, still preparing you. And once you embrace that, you stop trying to undo the past and start focusing on how to live in the present. You stop asking what if and start asking what now. That's where peace lives. Not in rewriting the story behind you, but in learning how to actually live in the chapter you're in right now. One of the hardest parts of life is in that waiting season, waiting for anything, waiting for love to come, waiting for healing, waiting for the career breakthrough, waiting for clarity about your purpose. It feels like your life is just on hold until the big thing arrives. And in the meantime, the days feel slow and meaningless. But waiting isn't wasted unless you waste it. God doesn't put you in a season of waiting to punish you. He puts you there to what? Prepare you. One more time for the people in the back. To prepare you. And if you pay attention, you'll start to notice that even in the most mundane routines, there are moments filled with purpose. Sometimes it's as simple as learning patience. Learned that one quite a lot. Sometimes it's strengthening the quiet parts of yourself that only grow in stillness. Sometimes it's deepening the relationships with the people already around you. The danger of waiting is thinking that your life hasn't started yet, that you'll really start living when you land the job, when you get married, when you feel better, when you move to the next chapter. I don't know, anything. But life is happening right now in these exact moments. The laughter with your best friend, the random afternoon walk, the lesson hidden in the conversation you didn't even think twice about. This is still your life, still your story, still the pages you'll look back on. When you can shift from I'm waiting for my life to begin to I'm learning while I wait, everything changes. You stop resenting the pause and start receiving it as preparation. You stop rushing to escape and start noticing what's right in front of you. And the wild thing is, that's usually when the next season shows up, right when you're finally surrendering to living fully where you are. Somewhere along all of our roads, we inherit this invisible clock. It tells us when we should be hitting certain milestones. And when we fall behind that pace, we panic, we spiral out. We start to compare. We start sprinting toward what we think we need to be doing, even though our legs are giving out, just to keep up with an expectation no one actually set but us. The truth is, racing against the clock only steals your joy from the present moment. Trust me, I know a thing or two about that. It makes you miss what is happening because you're too focused on what should have happened by now. And the irony, time passes either way. You'll blink and years will still go by, whether you are rushing or resting. Letting go of the race doesn't mean you stop moving forward. It means you finally realize that your pace is your pace. That's it. That nothing meant for you will miss you just because you didn't hit it on some imaginary schedule. And once you realize that urgency, life feels lighter. You can breathe again. You can enjoy the slow days for what they are instead of treating them like wasted time, like you should feel bad for having them. So here's what I want you to walk away with from this episode. Life is always going to feel like it's sneaking up on us. The slow days, the ones where you swear nothing's happening, where you're tired of waiting for the big moments, those are the days that actually build your life. And the fast years, they're just the receipts that time never asked for your permission before moving forward. But that doesn't have to be scary. It can be freeing, because if time is going to move no matter what, then you might as well slow down enough to enjoy it. Laugh a little more on the days that feel heavy. Pay attention to the people who show up in the small moments. Stop sprinting towards some fake finish line that doesn't even exist, surrounded by people who aren't even really cheering for you anyway. I think the trick is learning to stop asking, am I behind? And start asking, what's right here, right now, that I don't want to miss? And then maybe, just maybe, we need to stop worrying about the clock so much and remember that even when life feels quiet or boring, the story is still getting written. The story isn't stalled. It's literally unfolding before our eyes. So the next time you catch yourself saying, ugh, this day is dragging, just know one day you're going to look back and wish you had more slow days to stretch out the years. And hey, if you really feel like you're behind, you can always remember little antidotes like Morgan Freeman didn't blow up until he was in his 50s. Cameron Diaz, yeah, I said that. Cameron Diaz didn't have her first baby until she was 47. And Brene Brown didn't become well known until she was like 45. And without all of those things that blocked them from getting there faster, don't you think there's probably a reason why? Like with Brene Brown, maybe it took her longer because her knowledge was meant to be heard by people younger than her. So she had to wait on them to be able to get to that point where they needed to hear everything she was learning in her studies so that she could teach it. And I'm going to leave you with this. life is going to unfold how it is meant to unfold for you. So try not to worry about all the things you can't control in the middle. And me, I'll be right there beside you trying to do the same thing. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Go share it with all of your friends and family who need to hear about taking life as it comes, because I know there's a lot of us out there. I know that because I'm one of them. If you don't already follow along, please subscribe so you can listen to us on all the platforms, and make sure you go and follow on Instagram and TikTok. I have a special part 1 and part 2 series dropping this coming Sunday and the next Tuesday. So be sure to be on the lookout for those. They're going to be fun to listen to. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. This is Chasing Stability, and I will meet you in the in-between twice next week.